many warrant officers in one spot makes me a little nervous. Whenever there's more than 2 warrants in any location, start checking to make sure everything's secure and everything's good to go. But we'll talk a little bit about those stereotypes. I am the Assistant Admin General for the state of Minnesota, relatively newly appointed as of April of this year. So what we're going to talk about right now is a little bit about the warrant officers in the state, what you should be seeing coming down the pipe, and then expectations of your leadership and your senior leaders when we look at warrants, and then how to manage your career. Okay? And this is coming from someone who really didn't understand what warrants do. So, in Minnesota, how many warrant officers do we have, do we think? Anyone?
265.
How many?
265.
311. We have 311 warrant officer slots. So where are they at? Well, we have 38 at Joint Force Headquarters, 44 at the 34th ID, 51 at the ABCT. We've got 87 at the CAB, 8 at the RSG, 15 at your Troop Command, and you've got 10 at the RTI, 7 at here at Camp Ripley, and then RB's got 2. Okay. So, great, but what are we doing to grow and develop the warrant officer corps? Well, we've got some things coming down the pipe. So, Sapper Gumby, as you know, nothing is ever locked until it's actually loaded in the system and we have the slots available and we got bodies in it, and even then it's subject to change, right? But for fiscal year 18, we are getting a component repair company. How many folks here know what that is? I actually had to look that up. So it's basically sustainment maintenance. They're like all your maintainers in a large company, everything from your heavy equipment to the logistics side. They've got engineer equipment. I mean, it is literally a company of jack of all trades, but very maintenance heavy. What's interesting, however, is that we're getting this in 18, and part of that, there will be an additional 6 warrant slots that will come with it. But then turn around in FY19. Remember I said nothing stays the same? We're taking that CRC, and it's going to change into a classification and inspection company. We don't really know what this fully looks like yet. This is one of those, we're designing the airplane while it's in flight kind of things. We believe that it will look very similar to the CRC. We believe that it will maintain the same warrant structure, but its focus might shift slightly in its mission set. And where it's going to go, there's still some discussion if that'll actually fall under the ABCT, or does it make more sense to place it under the RSG, right? Where you have a lot more of your logistics side of the house. Right now, I think the leaning is actually towards the RSG, so the regional support group is where it's right now heading. Then, in FY19, we are getting a cyber protection team. So this isn't a may, we are actually getting one, and I'll talk a little bit about the cyber protection team here shortly. So where do we have our greatest needs? Where are our gaps for our warrant officers? Well, specifically, it's mostly in the intel side, right? Part of that has to do with the fact that the requirements for intelligence warrant officers, there are a lot of difficulties because of the feeder and the 10 series in order to get y'all to that E5, E6 rank before we can convert you to warrants, right? If we can't get them into the pipeline, it's harder to then convert them over to the warrant officer side. The other part is part of that CPT, which is the network management side of it. Right now, we know that the 170 series cyber ops planning, we don't really have a feeder for that right now. So how do we get those folks in there? How do we deal with the network management technician? The signal corps itself has a hard enough time with its own officers having the qualifications needed within the officer ranks. So now take that down to the enlisted ranks where we need to have, again, those feeder MOSs that are going to take us into that warrant officer side, right? Now, right now, as we're building the structure, there is a little bit of leeway that we're going to be given as part of these CPTs. And specifically, those 255 November network management technicians, they are going to allow them to be used as a substitute during the initial So that is an area of opportunity simply because we don't have another way of getting them. And as you know, once you're selected as a warrant into an area, it becomes extremely difficult for you to be able to cross into somewhere else, right? Unless you've got something along those lines of a civilian certification by your civilian job that really puts you square within the ability to transfer and the stars align and the warrant board agrees and all those certifications make you a specialist in a different field than what you've been raised up as originally as a warrant, it is near impossible to do. I'm not saying it's not possible, I'm just saying it's difficult. Okay? Again, the manning document for the CPT is still in draft form, and the requirements of how many of these we're going to need, and between the 170 alphas versus the 255 alphas and Novembers, and that gets into the more specific side of it. We really just don't know yet. We're having, like I said, a hard enough time getting all the correct certifications in, and that's just simply because these teams have a requirement classification and a security classification on top of all their civilian classifications that they have to have that we really don't fully understand yet. So what do warrant officers actually do? Now the reason I ask that question is because I'll tell you a little secret about the officer corps. We don't really know all the time, which is really scary. So how many here know J.R.R. Tolkien? Lord of the Rings, anyone? Got any Lord of the Rings fans? Seriously, own up to it if you are. All right, so the truth of what warrant officers are is actually found in the Lord of the Rings. I actually had to look this up. So for those who don't know, there is a theory that the Lord of the Rings, the rings themselves of power are actually an allegory towards military rank. And this is what the book has to say. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in the halls of stone. Well, what the heck does that mean? Well, there are 10 officer ranks. Okay, we could assume that the first 3, second lieutenant, lieutenants, captains, they're out in the field with the men and women, right? They're leading. But as you go up in rank, you get those majors, lieutenant colonels, colonels, they start turning white. That's because they're never leaving their offices. They're in the halls of stone, hunched over their desks. They forgot what the field looks like. Then you have 9 for the mortal men doomed to die. That's your enlisted rank, right? Do I need to say anything more about that? So what about the warrant officers? Does anyone remember how many ranks there were? Oh, come on, seriously? You'll have some serious reading to do outside of your technical books. All right, there are 20 rings. So there is basically 1 ring remaining. 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bind them, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. What that means is, warrant officers are really to represent the evil incarnate. On a serious note, there's actually a definition of what you do. It took the Army until 1985 to give you a definition of specifically what it is a warrant officer is. But I think if you spend a little time understanding the book definition, it tells you about the expectations, right? Now, I'm assuming everyone has seen this before, right? I hope so. Some of you are not really sure. All right. Basically, you are the expert. I look at you and I don't care if you are a W1 or you are a W5. I see no difference in the lightsaber, right? I think you know everything under the sun. What I expect as a general officer is that you live the word and deed of the warrant officer creed. Simple as that. You can fulfill the warrant officer creed, you are an excellent warrant officer. If you don't know what the warrant officer creed is, I got it in my book, I suggest you reread it. You are technically and tactically proficient. Like I said, I don't see any difference. I don't understand necessarily the educational requirement difference when it comes to specificity of skill between the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5, right? Now, I know that isn't exactly correct, but the truth of the matter is that you have a skill set that you bring to this table that when I talk to you, if find it pretty quickly, because that is your skill set to keep me basically on the short and narrow, right? I expect you to be able to straddle both the enlisted and the officer world. You were enlisted at one time. You understand what it's like to be in the trenches. I remember very clearly as a private being left on bar duty when the lieutenant forgot I was out on a post, me and my battle buddy. Didn't get picked up for a couple hours, missed a couple of meals. I never forgot that experience. Don't forget where you came from. On the officer world, you are officers. You have a different role as well. Understand how to balance between both of those. You are the consummate professional. Now, all joking aside, we all love the jokes about the crusty warrant officers with the coffee cups who don't show up to PT, who look like they haven't passed height weight in 60 years. I call bullshit. Okay? Because that's all fun, but the truth of the matter is the warrants I've worked with and the warrants I've known were there before I got to the office, left before I left the office, or after the office, but again, they stayed longer. They understood what I needed to do in my side of the world. They helped me figure out how to get there. But ultimately, there was no question in my mind that they were a professional. They looked the professional, they were ready, they had a PT, they were out there with the troops. And great, like I said, there's always the outliers and the stereotypes. But I expect you to be the consummate professional. And if you don't follow that realm, I suggest you get with the program really quickly. If y'all haven't figured it out, I don't blow sunshine, I tell you the way I see it. Okay? You are a leader, a teacher, and mentor to everyone. I might wear a star, but I can assure you I do not have the corner on answers. I don't. I didn't have it when I was a private. I sure as hell didn't have it when I was a lieutenant. And now that I'm a general officer, I still don't have it. There are a lot of smart people around me who help me figure out where I need to go. And there are a lot of smart warrants who helped me figure out the things I needed to figure out as an officer, especially in brigade command, that I didn't understand. They got me into the right direction. They got me on the tracks for success. A good warrant officer will not care what rank you hold. They will find a way to mentor you. And if you think that a general officer is above mentoring versus a private who is in need of mentoring, you need to relook at your definition of mentoring. Some of the best lessons I've learned, like I said, I've learned from some of my junior soldiers, sometimes from my peers, sometimes from those above me. But you as a warrant officer, you have different skill sets than I have. You have different skill sets than the NCOs have. You straddle those two worlds. You can see both worlds. You can take that skill set and use that to help everyone in that paradigm. You control, frankly, a lot more than you realize when it comes to shaping our future force. So what can you do to achieve success? I don't remember who coined this, but luck is when opportunity and preparedness meet, right? Simple as that. So what does that mean? Be prepared, right? Some of this is no shit common sense, people. Physically, educationally, and mentally. I cannot tell you how many times we've looked at trying to move someone into a position or provide an opportunity, and they weren't ready. Not because they missed some, gate necessarily. They weren't ready physically. They didn't have a current height, weight, A50 or non-passing. Well, that's an easy one, right? Low-hanging fruit. Secondly, they didn't have the physical requirements, dental, medical, PHA. Don't eliminate yourself from the competition over stuff you easily control. Understand your own regulations. I will tell you that I failed as an officer for most of my career when it came to my warrants. I didn't understand how to manage your careers. I did not understand what you needed to get to the next gate. I was still trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with the enlisted folks, right? Those were easier to understand because we talk about that. We talk about what the NCOs need as they come up for each of the gates, for the career gates to get to the next level. We know what it is for the officers because we're drilled into that very early. should not raise their hand, the only ones raising their hand. Here's the sad part, folks. If you don't understand that, you need to get smart really quick. Because here's what I thought, and this is probably true until I was a lieutenant colonel. I thought that the Senior Officer Career Board was a bunch of old generals sitting in a room training captains and desks for majors and lieutenants. It's pretty much like that. But the truth of the matter is that's what controls your career after you get to a certain level. How do you get to the attention of those officers sitting there? What are the boards looking for in your OERs? Here's the sad reality. Because of the numbers of warrant officers in any given organization, especially at the rank where it starts mattering, those OERs, they're senior rated by 06s and above, I often find that we do not have the ability to give you a top block. Does anyone understand what that means? Right? So when that board is sitting there and they see a center mass, does that mean you suck? Well, it could, but does it? No. Because the truth of the matter is I only have one CW4 I rate. Right? How many one blocks can I give if you're my first CW4? Pop quiz.
None.
Not true. One. But what does that mean? The next three have to be center mass. Any good person who manages their senior profile correctly will not fire that bullet. Why? If you don't know the answer to this, that tells me you need to figure out OERs. The reason you don't fire that first one unless you absolutely have to is because you don't know what number 2, 3, and 4 are. I don't have a crystal ball. I'd like to think I do, but I'd be a rich woman. I wouldn't be standing here necessarily, right? So how do you overcome that? How do you help someone like me or someone like that brigade commander who has to write that OER, who doesn't have the ability to give you that, but you know the board's looking at it, and I've sat in too many boards and they go, well, they only got a center mass, or all their OERs are center mass. Well, no shit, look at the blocks. They only have one of one that they rate on this. They can't. So you have to help that officer figure out what magic language needs to go in the narrative. There is a difference between a well-written narrative with a center mass and a vague narrative with a one block. And although the one block makes us feel all good, warm, and fuzzy, I can tell you when the board's looking at it, they don't get fooled necessarily. So what does it mean? Does it say you are destined to be the next CW5? Does it say that you are the individual who should be moved to the next position as soon as possible? Does it say that this warrant officer is the right-hand gal, right-hand man that makes this brigade, this organization function? They have unlimited potential. Promote immediately. Send them to the most demanding and challenging schools and education requirements. Give them the next position that's available at the 05 rank, or at the W5 rank. If it doesn't say those things, you better be having a conversation with your senior rater. And oh, by the way, that conversation doesn't occur at the end when I'm rating that box. That conversation occurs the first moment you get assigned to that organization, and you have to do your OER support form. I have news for you. I write OERs at 2:30 in the morning. My brain ain't always working just right at 2:30 in the morning. Your support form derives a lot. List hard facts of what you've done. Take those difficult times for me to write. The easier it is for me to write your OER, the better it's going to go for you, right? You control that. Now, if you don't have a sit-down counseling with your senior rater within the first 90 days of being at the organization, what should you do? Ignore it? No, because you already tend to get ignored anyhow as the work, because no one knows what you do, right? You better be knocking down on that door saying, sir, ma'am, I'd like to sit down with you and talk about the goals for the organization. What do I have to do to get a one block from you? Can I get a one block from you? Is that something that is a possibility, right? female warrants. All right, there's not a lot of you. I don't know why, but here's a trend that we're seeing. And I don't generally like singling out gender because I'm getting sick of it. But I will tell you, here's a trend we're seeing. And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of fluffy stuff. I don't know why. It's just fluff. It's sat in on boards, sat in on meetings, no concrete. Those are relationship things that we put in OERs, and those are important. But you need to start talking about the fact that you're leading equipment and managing equipment to the tune of $50 million, or that you manage 16 combat flight missions without incident. All right? If I didn't know the background of the person when I'm reading the OER, it doesn't match up. So if that language isn't in there, and that hardcore facts isn't in there, go back and talk to your raters. Make sure your OER support forms have, and this actually applies to all genders, but for some reason we're seeing it specifically, not just with our female warrants, by the way, we're seeing it with our female officers as well, as they're being kicked out of boards potentially, when you know, looking at everything else, that they shouldn't be. Do more than the minimum. All right, I know it. I manage a full-time law firm. I sit on the American Red Cross board. I sit on the Veterans Military Affairs Council. I worked on legislation this past year. I got a kid who today is buying a car with my husband. Our lives are busy. But if all you do is show up to drill, just saying, that's what you're going to get out of it. Right? Now, does that mean I expect you to spend a gazillion hours to keep the Clybourne schedule? I don't recommend it, by the way, but no, I don't. How many of you are in Distro A? Raise your hand. Okay, to keep your hand up. For those on Distro A, how many of you are full-timers? If you're a full-timer, drop your hand. Are you on Distro A?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you an M-Day?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. Give that man a hand, a round of applause. Here's why I point that out. You know how much shit comes out on that email list that are just kind of good things to know? But you have no clue because, well, you're not on Distro A. It's easy to get onto your G6 or S6 and say, add me to Distro A. Now, you gotta read through a lot of stupid stuff, right? I mean, there's lots of stupid stuff on it. But I like the delete button. But I see when all the operations orders post. I see when their events are occurring. I see promotion announcements. I see all kinds of things that allow me to understand by a quick scan of the moment what the pulse of the organization is. Knowledge is power, but power is worthless if it's not shared, right? And I personally hate the M-Day full-time divide. I've been on both sides of it, and after seeing how much stuff occurs, and you don't have an idea, it's really hard to make an impact on the organization if you don't at least have a 25,000-foot view of the organization, right? Again, you might be hitting delete all day long for all I know, and there's lots of stupid stuff on there. But there's every now and then a good piece of knowledge that is worthwhile. So if you're not on it, take an extra step above it, do something more. Develop your reputation. So warrants tend to get into their organizations and there's not a lot of moving around. Get involved in other things that put you out there. So where's Chief Podratz? Chief Podratz just spent a lovely year with me on the Joint Professional Development Forum Board as a co-chair. Wasn't easy work. She did a lot of work, a lot. But the point is that she took the opportunity to do something that was outside of her comfort zone, that was not something that was probably on the time schedule that she really wanted to add to, but it gave an opportunity to develop a reputation. She did a fabulous job, by the way. But it gave an opportunity to do something outside of your usual fields. So you got a lot of technical expertise in this room. How many of you are giving feedback on some of the doctrine that's being written? No? No. How many of you are writing any articles about the area that you specialize in, or maybe what needs to happen next for warrant officers? Anyone? Why not? That's not reserved for for general officers and colonels and W5s who, like to spout brilliance. You guys have got real knowledge. You've seen how things work, how things don't work. You've got great ideas in here. Why are you not using them and sharing that with your communities? Lastly, be the one that they turn to for mentorship. Be a mentor. You do not have to be a W5. You do not have to be an O7 to be a mentor. You can be a private. You can be a W1, a W2, or any of those. Mentor someone outside of your comfort zone. It's different than you. Mentor someone outside of your branch. Why? Because your career field is small, right? And so when you've only got 4 deep in the logistics side, maybe that's not where you want to look to. You want to have that cohort, don't get me wrong. When I was a lieutenant, when I was a captain, and all the way up, I found someone outside of my organization I could ask the stupid questions about. Hey, what the hell does this mean? And how do I do this PCC pre-convoy check thing? What do I have to worry about? I didn't want to ask my boss that. I didn't want to ask the executive officer that, right? But I had no problem asking the other lieutenant or the other captain in another organization. There are lots of folks here from various organizations. You better, if there's only 311 of you, well, technically a little less because not all those slots are filled, but you should know your warrants across the board, right? And you're doing that by being here and taking advantage of the social opportunities as well. But just reaching out, sit on different committees, do things to develop a network across the board. I will tell you that I value any leader, but especially those leaders who are willing to make others rock stars. You see, when I have a rock star, that is awesome, but you are worthless to me if you are the only rock star. If you are a rock star that helps make the 2 people next to you a rock star, now you're a combat multiplier in my organization. I expect you as warrant officers to be combat multipliers. 1 rock star out of 311 doesn't make for strong force, but 311 rock stars do. And don't get confused by what is a rock star. I like the analogy of the dented star, because the shiny stars, they're easy to identify, right? And that's not because I wear one. I've always used this analogy. Your shiny stars are your high performers. Those are the ones that the kid you saw coming right out of WOC, you knew they were destined to be the next W5. They had their stuff together. There was no problems. I mean, you gave them the task. It's good to go. Those are awesome. But your true job is to help mentor those not-so-shiny stars, the ones that are dented, the ones that maybe don't shine so bright. Now, I'm not talking about those with moral or ethical failings. I mean, those we have no room for in our organization. Those who do not believe in the diversity inclusion, those that do not treat people with the disrespect or with the respect that they deserve regardless of their background, regardless of their age, regardless of their rank, those people we don't have room for. I don't have time for you. But if you are a dented star, you just need